The story forges as the main character Lai Cheng-kong sits in front of the computer and watches a clip of himself. In the clip of a total of 5 minutes, Cheng-kong dresses as a big bear and approaches a girl named Suzia, whom Cheng-kong loves so much. As Cheng-kong approaches her and is about to open up, everybody starts to gather and watch everything that will happen. Cheng-kong removes the head of the bear suit. There's utter silence all around. Cheng-kong requests her to give him a chance to be his girlfriend, on which all the people start to raise their voices in favor of Cheng-kong. Suzia isn't very pleased with this and seems to be a very conservative girl. Suzia shouts at Cheng-kong that they barely know each other for a week and that Cheng-kong is already confessing to her. Suzia, gutted, says to Cheng-kong that he should have held that out for a month and calls this useless trash. Suzia reminds Cheng-kong of his habit of eating swan meat and of him being a toad. From the crowd appears a girl named Lan Xiao, a friend of Cheng-kong, who inquires about everything and yells at them to stop recording all this. She himself then grabs the camera and closes it. Lan Xiao cares a lot about Cheng-kong. When Cheng-kong finishes watching the clip, he finds the caption as a low-end player man confessing to a goddess of beauty. But he just has to lose and get back on the way to fish again. And if he gets rejected because he's fat or his heart is not beating, Cheng-kong feels disgusted about this and shouts, "Why?" Cheng-kong shouts why she'd do that to him, as he's just a little weird. Cheng-kong is disappointed that it only took a week to get entrapped by her, and that even if he eats swan's meat and is a piece of trash, does he still deserve it? Cheng-kong is incredibly worried about all this, and he can't stop himself but eats everything in his reach, like burgers, soda cans, or snacks, in sheer desperation. Cheng-kong keeps eating until his phone rings. Lan Xiao invites Cheng-kong to his birthday party and requests Cheng-kong to come this time as he hasn't gone in the last 10 years. Lan Xiao jokingly says that Cheng-kong's wings have become hard, meaning that he has become independent like a bird. Lan Xiao explains to Cheng-kong about the party and location that they're at, Supreme KTV 888 box, and requests him to hurry up and come over. Cheng-kong isn't in a good mood and has been crying for hours, so he cuts the phone immediately after listening to Lan Xiao. One of Lan Xiao's friends, who seems to like her, tells her to calm down as Lan Xiao is surprised by the call being cut by Cheng-kong. That friend continues that even if Cheng-kong arrives, we will only be disappointed, so it doesn't matter that he's here to celebrate her birthday, and shows Lan Xiao all the arrangements that he made. As everybody at the party enjoys, Lan Xiao is still worried about little Kong. Lan Xiao texts Cheng-kong that it doesn't matter what other people say about her, and that Cheng-kong will always be her best friend no matter what. Cheng-kong reads and apologizes to Lan Xiao in his heart that he knows nothing but eating and that he's a piece of trash. Cheng-kong repeatedly cusses himself and believes he's not worthy of the friendship of a caring girl like Lan Xiao. Cheng-kong keeps repeatedly shouting Lan Xiao's name and eating snacks and all the stuff. Cheng-kong's heart is beating faster and is more tense than ever. Cheng-kong keeps eating the food and suddenly feels a pain in his chest, falls on the floor, and is living his final breaths. Cheng-kong utters that he's done nothing good all his life, and now he's eaten himself to death. As he's unconscious, he feels himself falling into a completely different dimension, and there's a countdown going on from 5. On 5, Cheng-kong recalls the time when he's about to sit with Suzia in the school class, and she requests the teacher to change his seat as Cheng-kong is too fat and she doesn't want to be squeezed. The whole class laughed, and the teacher did what Suzia said. On countdown 4, Cheng-kong remembers the time her mother was taking his father abroad for treatment of obesity, and advised Cheng-kong to take care of his body and also told him that their family has a genetic obesity disorder and his father has kidney cancer too. Cheng-kong's mother advised him to end up like his father. On countdown 3, Cheng-kong recalls when he confesses to Suzia, and she rejects him, saying that he's trash, that she hoped that Cheng-kong would hold it out for a month more and that Cheng-kong's not worthy of her friendship. On countdown 2, Cheng-kong wonders if this is death as he feels so light and flying. On countdown 1, he falls into a constellation of light, and the sound comes that the fat exchange system has been activated. Cheng-kong sees something written like he has received the novice pack and suddenly returns to the real world. It doesn't feel real to Cheng-kong. Cheng-kong opens his eyes as if he's just out of unconsciousness. When Cheng-kong gets up and sees the same room he died in and everything in its place, he asks himself if he's still alive even after he just died. Cheng-kong feels strange and sees his hands covered in a sticky material. He's worried and questions about what happened there. Cheng-kong moves forward and goes to switch on the light with his sticky hands. As he switches on the light, Cheng-kong sees himself in the mirror and is flabbergasted to see a young, handsome, slim, and smart man in the mirror, but that man is himself. He's astonished and wonders if the man in the mirror is him. Lai Cheng-kong still can't believe that he's become that handsome and attractive man after he's suffered from all the rejections and pain of being fat. Cheng-kong pinches himself to check whether he's dreaming or not, but when he pinches and gets hurt, Cheng-kong is stunned because he's actually skinny now. Suddenly a robotic sound comes that the fat exchange system has been activated and that Cheng-kong has already reviewed the novice gift pack. Cheng-kong is scared and shouts about who's talking. The robotic voice claims to be Cheng-kong's smart sensor hub, named Nicholas Angela Gourmet, and tells Cheng-kong that he has been selected as the son of heaven and the fat exchange system has been activated. Cheng-kong is left speechless and still cannot figure out all this. Cheng-kong feels suspicious and starts to solve the query with full concentration. Cheng-kong knows he has seen these things often, like what happened to him. Cheng-kong reckons that first, he dies and gets resurrected as a handsome young man totally different from the real him. Now there's a system telling him that he has been selected for a strange program, which may mean he'll start the performance according to that system soon. Nicholas, the smart sensor, guides Cheng-kong about the fat exchange system. Nicholas further explains to Cheng-kong that he can use his fat content to redeem some skill points and that it's only the start of the journey, and reaching the pinnacle of life is the ultimate goal. Cheng-kong excitedly asks Nicholas if he can divide the mountains in half, fight the wild bulls, and break boulders within his chest and everything he wants. Cheng-kong further asks if he has a lot of physical strength now to do anything, to which Nicholas replies that Cheng-kong's right. While Nicholas tells him the conditions, Cheng-kong intervenes and starts kung fu and moves on to anything he has in his room. Cheng-kong hits things with his hand, thinking he's stronger now but gets hurt, and his hand is swollen, and he utters miserably that although he is given all this, no one wants to watch him and that he's still trash like before. Nicholas clears the misconception of Cheng-kong by telling him that his current level is too low to achieve all the powers right now, and that the powers and skills will be activated one by one depending on Cheng-kong's fat consumption, and upgrading the fat consumption system. Nicholas further assures Cheng-kong of the kindness of the system, and that they've prepared a novice gift pack for him. Cheng-kong questions Nicholas about that novice pack. The novice gift pack tells Cheng-kong about his acquired traits and the passive skills he has obtained for now. Cheng-kong gets the initial skill of mouth strengthening, meaning he can change the shape of his face anytime he wants, like when chewing, siphoning, or licking, etc., and gets to know that it's a necessary trait for eating and traveling. The passive trait acquires the far extra points he can accumulate sideways to exchange for limited time consumption items in the system. Cheng-kong isn't satisfied with the skill of mouth strengthening and believes it isn't a skill with multiple advantages and asks if there's anything more. Nicholas tells Cheng-kong that the initial activation of the system strengthens the host's body, improves the body's overall endurance, and heightens all 5 senses of the body. After listening to Nicholas, Cheng-kong wonders why he's not hurt anymore. Nicholas further tries to explain the most important thing, but once again, there's intervention. This time, Cheng-kong's phone starts to buzz, and there's noise in the background. Cheng-kong asks Lan Xiao if she's alright. Lan Xiao asks for help from Cheng-kong to save her, and the beeping sound comes, and the call is cut. Cheng-kong knows that something's wrong. On the other hand, Lan Xiao's phone drops off his hands. Lan Xiao's friend, who likes her, shouts at her for sticking to that poor fat Kong all day and reminds her that he cares a lot about her. But she doesn't pay heed to whatever he's done and asks Lan Xiao where he's lacking. Lan Xiao tells his friend to move away as she's going home, but her friend resists, on which Lan Xiao pushes her, but her friend grasps her wrist tightly. Lan Xiao shouts at him to let her go, but her friend says out loud that Lan Xiao is not getting out of the door. Lan Xiao is terrified of the behavior of her friend. Suddenly, Cheng-kong arrives in style, thumps at the door with his leg, and orders Lan Xiao's friend to let her go. The door is rebounding and closes itself. Cheng-kong again pushes the door wide open and again shouts at Lan Xiao's friend to let her go on, which all of Lan Xiao's friends are shocked because they don't know who's that lunatic when it's actually that fat Cheng-kong who has been resurrected. Lan Xiao's friend, while holding her hand, asks who's that lunatic, on which everyone is laughing. Cheng-kong approaches them and questions Lan Xiao's friend about what kind of man hurts a girl. Lan Xiao's friend points his finger at Cheng-kong and asks how he got the audacity to speak in front of him like that. Cheng-kong immediately realizes that he has made a mistake in the heat of the moment. Cheng-kong starts trembling and demands help from the system to help him make his debut. The system replies that Cheng-kong's level is too low, and Cheng-kong feels that his levels are low, so he's definitely screwed. But the system tells Cheng-kong not to be impatient, and that there's an initial skill that he can use right now. The skill's name is King of Contempt, using which Cheng-kong can cause a mental shock to the target, and this skill is free to use. Chen Kong feels happy and likes the mental shock part. Chen Kong still has 200 points remaining after acquiring this trait still. Chen Kong imagines in his mind that it doesn't matter if there are many people on the other side because a sling like him can control them all and save Lan Xiao all by himself. Lan Xiao's friend tries to reach Chen Kong, but Chen Kong refrains. Lan Xiao's friend keeps provoking Chen Kong on why he's not replying and dazing off. Chen Kong is worried but still calls Lan Xiao, and her friend wonders if Chen Kong's acting dumb. Chen Kong, acting like a hero touching his glasses, assures Lan Xiao to leave everything to her and that he will handle this all. Lan Xiao ponders who this man is. Although handsome, his head doesn't seem to work well. Lan Xiao's friend passes an evil smirk and tells Chen Kong to take care and worry about himself first. Chen Kong knows it's time for action and pushes his glasses back on his face. The system tells Chen Kong that the skill King of Contempt has been successfully activated. Chen Kong then uses that skill and mentally shocks his opponent, who falls to his knees, holding his head and flinching in pain. Chen Kong feels proud in his mind that the skill worked and that he's someone they can't provoke, and believes that he'll be invincible from now on as he didn't even touch his opponent and fell to the ground instantly. Suddenly, Chen Kong reads a fine print. On that fine print, it was written that this skill has a probability of 5% to make the opponent more violent than before. Chen Kong inquires about that, which the system explains that the other party may get into a mental state of madness and lose reasoning. Chen Kong is terrified as he's witnessing the same thing as his opponent. Lan Xiao's friend gets up and shouts at Chen Kong on how dares to look down upon him, and he doesn't seem to look okay but has become a madman. The system sarcastically replies, just like this man. Lan Xiao's friend comes forward, grabs Chen Kong by his collar, pulls him up, and says that Chen Kong will die. Chen Kong utters in his mind that this is cheating, like what kind of broken skill he's given that doesn't even work properly and has disadvantages like this. Chen Kong asks the system to help him ASAP, but the system simply tells Chen that the points are insufficient to switch to another skill. Chen Kong's opponent pulls him off the floor and laughs at Chen Kong, saying what kind of joke he is. At this moment, Chen Kong understands it's his time to die. Chen Kong asks Lan Xiao to help him, but instead of helping Chen Kong, she runs out of the door. Chen Kong feels betrayed and calls Lan Xiao disloyal but realizes she doesn't recognize him and still thinks of her running as cute. At that time, Chen Kong has accepted his fate and is being brutally beaten by his opponent, who, after punching him hard, throws Chen Kong on the table. Chen Kong crashes on the table and is hurt badly. Chen Kong's waist is hurt pretty badly too. Chen Kong knows that he has to find a way to fight back, otherwise his life is in danger. Chen Kong wonders what he can do to save himself. Meanwhile, Lan Xiao's friend grabs a bottle of wine in a state of pure madness and starts moving toward Chen Kong, who's already frightened and worried that his opponent will hit him with a bottle. Chen Kong hurries and looks to his left and right to see if anything can help him. Suddenly, Chen Kong sees some cake or something on the floor and comes up with an idea to save him. All the people start to laugh at Chen Kong as he's about to get beaten, and he's eating food with pure joy in this kind of circumstance. They all call Chen Kong a joke and say that he's mentally impaired. But Chen Kong knows what he's doing as he needs more fat points for the next skill. The people ask if Chen Kong's become mad after being hit, and that he's still eating even if he will die. They call Chen Kong a stupid pig and laugh that this idiot eats fast. The people keep provoking Chen Kong that he still thinks his opponent will let him go, but Chen Kong keeps eating the cake as he knows he needs more points. Lan Xiao's friend, tired of watching him eat for minutes now, asks if Chen Kong is done eating. The system tells them he has 1550 points, and these points meet the redemption requirements, and if he would like to redeem them for a skill. Chen Kong immediately says that he wants that skill. Chen Kong's opponent asks Chen Kong if he's done eating so he can hit him hard. As Chen Kong's opponent swings his arms and is about to hit him, Chen Kong acquires the skill of spiritual resonance, and suddenly his opponent stops midway. Chen Kong raises his head slightly to see what has happened. Chen Kong's opponent starts shouting Thay why his heart is so heavy. Chen Kong wonders what happened to his opponent as the opponent stares at him. The opponent drops the bottle off his hands, which falls on the floor, breaks, and confesses that this is like the feeling of first love with tears in his eyes. All the other people there start to wonder what's happening there. The opponent asks Chen Kong who beat him like this and what happened. Chen Kong answers in his mind that it was the opponent himself. The opponent feels privileged to witness such a handsome face but wonders why there's blood on it. Chen Kong again answers in his mind that it was the opponent himself. Chen Kong's opponent hugs him, kisses his forehead, and assures Cheng Kong that from now on, he won't let anyone hurt him. Cheng Kong wonders what's happening here on. The system introduces the skill that there are tremors in the abdominal cavity at a frequency of 7 Hz, which establishes a relationship of pheromones between any two individuals of the same type. It can also be perceived during courtship. Cheng Kong shouts at the system what is that nonsense, and that he's not gay. Cheng Kong nervously says he doesn't know what to say. Cheng Kong feels bad but says to his opponent's face that he's not Cheng Kong's type. On this, Cheng Kong's opponent, who has started to love him, feels devastated. Cheng Kong tells his opponent that everyone here admires him, that there are many options, and that he shouldn't lose faith. The opponent is confused if he's being rejected and cries that how he can love someone with his broken heart and that he will remain lonely. Suddenly, Cheng Kong's opponent removes his clothes and starts jumping on his friends present there, saying that if his first kiss isn't with the one he loves, he will compensate for that pain with his friend's body, and his friend starts to scream "No!" As Cheng Kong is standing and sees the other people being disturbed by his opponent. Cheng Kong hears the shouts for help, but Cheng Kong can't do anything about this. Meanwhile, the running sounds of footsteps approach the room where it is all happening, and Lan Xiao did run for help instead of saving herself alone after all. After opening the door forcefully, Lan Xiao tells the officers to have a look at their fight but is embarrassed to see them crying because Lan Xiao's friend was on top trying to make love with them all. The officer is bamboozled to see that those people are coming out while Lan Xiao lowers her gaze in shame. While all that drama is happening, Cheng Kong is sitting outside in front of a fountain where the splashing sound of water is to be heard from a long distance. Cheng Kong sees himself in the water and feels proud that he did it. He saved the people he loves for the first time in his life all by himself, and the system jokingly replies that Cheng Kong almost killed himself too in that process. Cheng Kong stands up and promises to always stand by Lan Xiao's side and that he'll become a better man now. There's a rumbling sound coming out of the tummy of Cheng Kong. Cheng Kong knows that he just ate a lot of food, but still, he's become hungry. Then Cheng Kong starts moving towards his home, saying he doesn't know if this plugin is a blessing or a curse. The ringtone on his cell phone jolted him awake, and he groggily reached for it on the nightstand. While he is picking it up, he groans and yawns. He quickly peeks at the caller ID and discovers that it's Wang Lei calling. When Wang Lei reminds Ah Kong that today is the day they will get paid for their efforts, there is an air of desperation in his voice. Ah Kong gives an appreciative nod and acknowledges the reminder. Because he had been so preoccupied with his thoughts, he had completely forgotten that it was payday. He springs out of bed and scrambles to get dressed quickly. After he has been dressed, he experiences a sudden feeling of weakness. He decides to sit on the floor and consider what happened to him. He feels humiliated as he looks at his tiny frame. The objective was to develop into a more improved version of himself, but what occurred was the opposite of what was intended. He is unsure of the cause of his feelings of vulnerability. He tries to stand but cannot because his legs give out from under him. He appears to be bewildered and puzzled as he looks about. As he fights against his inability to comprehend what is happening to him, his heart rate quickens. He takes a few deep breaths and tries to regain his composure, but the weakness remains. He is unsure whether he is getting sick from something or whether it is a sign of something more dangerous. He decides to sit down and take a short break, hoping the sensation will go away. The system's voice breaks into his thinking as he considers what action to take next. It explains that for his body to work effectively, it requires a certain amount of fat mass. It dawns on him that he overindulged in food the night before and needs to eat again within 12 hours. Should you fail to do so, the algorithm will eliminate him as a viable option. As he watches in shock, Ah Kong pulls his knees to his sternum and sits down. He knows that he will not live to see another day if he does not rapidly collect his strength. He rouses himself from his sleep, his entire body shaking with the sensation of hunger. To satisfy his ravenous appetite, he makes a beeline for the kitchen. While he is searching through the cabinets and the refrigerator, the system is continuously providing him with remarks and reminders. When he opens the door to his refrigerator, he locates one hot pot base pack. However, Ah Kong does not have access to this information even though the system has congratulated him on his success. He concentrates intently on the meal as he stands before it. He has decided that he will not consume it, even if it means he will die. After some time has passed, he travels to the store via bus. As he touches his lips, he becomes aware they have become swollen and red. The system once informs him that to satisfy its prerequisites, he must consume food. He begs the system to stop reminding him, assuring him that he will eat something as soon as he receives his salary. As soon as he enters the shop, he heads for the kitchen. After unlocking his lockers, he notices that his clothes have been taken without permission. He turns to ask Wang Lei for an explanation, but no one else is in the room with him. This leaves him perplexed. Before he has time to form another thought, the mouth-watering scent of a dinner being prepared in the kitchen overwhelms his senses. He inhales deeply as he takes in the mouth-watering aroma and savors it. He looks over at the food arranged on the table in front of him, luring him in with its enticing scent. His body reacts on autopilot, and his appetite takes control of the situation. He is no longer able to fight off the temptation that is in front of him. He snatches all the food in front of him and consumes it without concern for anything else. As he eats and swallows each bite, his attention is completely fixated on the delicious taste and mouthfeel of the food. As he gives into this moment of unadulterated pleasure, the rest of the world seems to recede into the background. A sudden sound from the system grabs his attention and draws it there. His fat requirements have been met. As the person puts more effort into their training, they get the sense that they are picking up new abilities. They will be able to more effectively assimilate the nutrients they consume because of this ability, which will improve their metabolism and digestion. When Ah Kong learns that he has been hoping for some offensive talents, he feels a sense of disappointment. Voices appeared to be coming from the direction of the corridor suddenly. It dawns on him at that very moment that it is Wang Lei. He tries to see what is happening on the other side of the door by sticking his head through the slightly open crack. When he sees Wang Lei being reprimanded by an older woman with a harsh and ruthless tone in her voice, his eyes widen in surprise. She belittles Wang Lei and Ah Kong before terminating their employment with the company. Wang Lei musters up his nerve but eventually approaches the woman. While his heart is beating rapidly, he inquires about their salary for the previous month. She laughs at him, making fun of him for even having the audacity to inquire about their pay. She behaves cruelly, making remarks about their appearance and embarrassing him in front of everyone. Her words to beg him to leave are as intelligent as a dagger as they cut through the air. As he tries to keep his cool, he notices that the shame is causing his face to flush. Despite his best attempts, he can sense that tears are beginning to form in his eyes. He knows he needs to move on, but he just can't bring himself to do it now. Ah Kong's fist is clenched around the bottle of mayonnaise in his grasp, and he is fuming with rage. The woman was startled as the condiment flew across the room and landed directly on her face. As Ah Kong stands there, bewildered about what to do next, his soul departs from his body. The screams of the woman cut through the air with a fury that is so powerful that it terrifies him. Since Ah Kong is aware that he cannot remain hidden indefinitely, he comes forward and acknowledges his error. He expresses his regret by referring to her as his older sister, hoping to calm her agitation. The moment the woman recognizes him, the color of her face begins to change to a bright crimson. She now experiences a strong desire to be with him as she continues to look at Ah Kong. Her mood goes through a sea change, and she begins to speak to him softer to start a discussion with him. At first, Ah Kong is completely baffled by all that is going on around him. He is now conscious of the fact that he has shed a considerable amount of weight. He instantly comes up with a rebuttal and tells her he is just here to get a drink in response to her argument. She smiles cheerily at him as she meets him and gestures for him to sit. He goes over to Wang Lei, places his arm around Lei's shoulder, and announces he will take care of him. Lei has a sense of disorientation, but he continues to comply with the circumstances. While this happens, the elder woman will not stop daydreaming about him. When the meal is brought to Ah Kong, he does not waste any time grabbing it and devouring it as though his life depended on it. He is completely uninterested in what the woman has to say. His eyes wander over the room, looking for something specific. And then he sees him, Wang Lei, sitting in a corner, completely ignoring the meal that he is sitting in front of him. He looks at him for a while, wondering what could bother him. He looks at him and inquires as to the explanation for the absence of eating. The man casts an embarrassed glance downward before admitting that he does not have the funds to purchase food. He gives him a pep talk and tells him everything is on him to fix. Concerned, Wang Lei inquires as to whether or not he has the funds to pay for everything. In response, Ah Kong indicates a poster hanging on the wall. It says that if people can consume 48 bottles of beer daily, they are entitled to free food for the entire day. Wang Lei continues to harbor skepticism toward him, but he reassures Wang Lei that he can complete the work without concerning himself with the financial repercussions. Immediately after opening the first beer bottle, he moves on to the next and downs each one in a flash. The elderly lady glances at him while her thoughts return to the image of him drinking beer after beer. Wang Lei is flabbergasted and finds it impossible to imagine that someone could consume wine at such a high pace without experiencing stomach distress. When Wang Lei has finished eating, Ah Kong will ask him if he is full. After finishing their meals, people get up from their seats and start walking towards the exit of the restaurant or other establishment. They are suddenly prompted to pay by the sharp insistence of the woman's voice, which cuts through the air. When Akong looks at the poster on the wall, he sees that he gave her $50 instead of $48. He walks up to the woman and tries explaining his error, but she becomes angry with him again. Her tone becomes increasingly angry as she scolds them for playing a trick on her. Following the feast, Akong exposes himself to Wang Lei as his true self. Wang Lei finds it difficult to trust what he is currently hearing. He has a hard time wrapping his head around the dramatic change that has taken place in his physical appearance. The fact that Akong's argument regarding a tea that helps with weight loss is so flimsy is the source of his surprise when it turns out that the tea works. As Wang Lei opens himself to Akong, he has a growing sensation of discomfort. He used words like ruthless and possibly tied to a dangerous gang to describe the woman. The possibility that she will seek retribution against them causes him stress, because she has no idea who Akong is, so he won't get in trouble for it. However, Wang Lei might be. In light of this, he urges Akong to figure out a way out of the problem. He pulls out his phone and contacts the emergency number, leaving a message to report that the Happy Hour bar sells counterfeit alcoholic beverages. His pulse quickens as he vents his rage and fury over the phone, and his heart rate increases. He finds it hard to imagine that a business of such renown would fall to such a low level as to trick its consumers with drinks that are not authentic. He gives the operator all pertinent information, expecting them to react quickly and take the required steps to resolve the issue. He is at a loss for words as he hangs up the phone. When Akong finished his call, he looked up and saw Wang Lei standing before him, looking confused. After taking a few slow, deep breaths, he walks over to him and places a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He starts by elaborating on how the report wasn't completely incorrect. He had harbored this suspicion ever since the very first sip. His concerns were reinforced by the system when it appeared that the liquid did not refill his glass to the extent that it ought to have done so. As Wang Lei sees her fall from grace, he heaves a sigh of relief, and his eyes flash excitedly. The following day, the newspaper published the news, which appeared to be communicated to the tavern proprietor. His countenance is gloomy, and he does not appear pleased with the situation. He yells commands at his subordinate and demands to know who dared to damage the reputation of his tavern. The employee gives an anxious smile and nods before rushing off to carry out his superior's instructions. The air is filled with the sweet smell of summer. Wang Lei and Akong decide to have a bite to eat and relax in the lobby of a convenience store. Wang Lei decides to have a light drink since it's hot outside, and he wants to refuel himself. On the other hand, Akong decides to order ramen because he feels hungry again. Because of how the system is set up, he is going wild for the food. After becoming comfortable, Wang Lei starts the conversation by noting that the first day of school is tomorrow. They discuss the cost of their education and its pressure on their financial situation. Since they have both recently been let off from their employment and do not have any savings, Wang Lei asks Akong in a concerned tone regarding the payment of his fee. Akong doesn't seem bothered by the situation as he reassures Wang Lei that he has a plan. He discloses that his parents have provided him with some money to cover the school tuition, and he states that he will find a solution to the problem of losing his job. Wang Lei is concerned about him, but Akong seems interested in his meal. Wang Lei observes as Akong raises his hand and wants 10 more bowls of ramen. Wang Lei is concerned about Akong because of his never-ending hunger. He cannot help but feel annoyed at this point. The following morning, a spectacular sunrise shines light on the building that houses the school. A queue is forming at the fee collection counter, and Akong is waiting patiently. After an eternity, he was finally called forward to the front of the line, where he promptly gave up his card. On the other hand, Akong's face turns progressively pale as the instructor continues to stroke it. The instructor has brought to his attention that insufficient funds are available on his card to meet the cost of the activity. His mouth drops to the ground as he thinks about how much equilibrium he still possesses. When he considers the upsetting news, he is stunned to see the remaining balance he has pieced together. It's difficult to accept what he is witnessing. Right now, it's barely enough to get by, but it won't get him far beyond. Almost instantly, he asked the instructor about the closing date for the fee submission and if there were any further questions. When he got the reply, a wave of relief washed over him as he realized he still had 3 days to find the money. He felt like he had more time than he thought he did. He sighed a sigh of relief at learning that he would be granted the additional time. He exits the room while his heart is still pounding despite the growing sense that something terrible is about to happen. How could he have possibly spent that much money on meals by himself? Even though he is trying so hard, he just can't recall what happened. He begins to blame the system, concluding that it is to blame for putting him in this difficult situation and depriving him of the money he has labored so diligently to get. He starts thinking about what course of action to follow in this situation. He considers giving his father a call but soon realizes that his father is currently receiving treatment overseas and may not be able to assist him. This causes him to abandon the idea. Because of this, he decides to give up on the concept. He concludes that he will provide an answer in a short period. When 3 of the most popular girls in the school observe him while he stands outside the room, he is lost in contemplation because he is engrossed with his ideas. They approach him with an assured stride, their eyes never leaving him as they do so, and their stare is fixed on him the entire time. They start to adore him, particularly his hair, sense of style, and overall physical attractiveness. As a result of the fact that the girls have never encountered him before, their curiosity regarding him is only increasing. While they whisper to one another, they discuss who he might be and where he might have come from among themselves. In the end, they give their buddy Suzie the task of approaching him to initiate a conversation with him. They expect her to succeed. She accepts his offer, even though she is unsure of her ability to win his love within the specified length. Despite this, she decides to take him up on his offer. Her confidence is bolstered by the support and encouragement she receives from her friends. As she walks closer to him and draws further nearer to him with each step she makes, Ah-Kong cannot help but take notice of her. His mind constantly returns to the difficult times they've been through together, overwhelming him. He will never forget the day he proposed to her and how she humiliated him badly in front of their classmates and professors by publicly rejecting his proposal. He will never forget that day. After locking eyes with him and getting the signal from the moment to move closer, Suzie does exactly that. She moves in closer. She trips on purpose, hoping he will catch her in his arms and give in to her ruse. To her complete and total surprise, Ah-Kong does not so much as twitch a muscle the entire time. She is so taken aback by the fact that her trick is unsuccessful for the first time that she accidentally smacks her head against his chest. She keeps her cool and maintains a compassionate expression on her face as she looks at him while she considers whether or not to approach him. She detects the rapid beating of his heart, and this causes her to become ecstatic since she is convinced that she has effectively captured him. Looking up, she sees Ah-Kong casting a malicious glare in his direction. She cannot for the life of her figure out what he is trying to convey with the expressions on his face. Wang Lai makes an impromptu phone call to Ah-Kong and invites him to meet at the local internet cafe. Ah-Kong is taken aback. She is seized with utter dread when she hears Ah-Kong's name. Kong abandons his post to chase Wang Lai, leading to Suzie crashing. This is the cause of the incident. The recent occurrence that just took place left her friends unable to comprehend what it was that they had just seen. She repeatedly yells and calls Ah-Kong's name to determine whether it is indeed him. He stops momentarily before continuing to ridicule her by praising her for his fame and then urging her to move out of the way so that he may proceed with what he was doing. As Suzi's friends quickly cluster around Ah-Kong and lavish their respect and admiration for him, Suzie is left alone to sit on the ground nearby. People seem to recognize Ah-Kong as a well-known internet celebrity, and they admire the radical change that has taken place in his appearance. On the other hand, they make fun of Sun Zia and humiliate her by calling her queef of the campus, a title that she does not merit and which they use in jest. Because Suzie cannot deal with all of this disgrace, she has become a raging, angry person. She swears under oath that she will punish Ah-Kong for the insult committed to her. Ah-Kong and Wang Lai are dining together at a table when Wang Lai begins to brag about his heroic rescue to get Ah-Kong out of the awkward situation. However, Ah-Kong is preoccupied with his food, and Wang Lai becomes irritated by his eating. At that moment, Ah-Kong yells at Wang Lai to express his gratitude for rescuing him. Lai inquires once more about the cost of his education, and Ah-Kong formulates a strategy. He shares his desire to become a streamer and then shows him an advertisement for how to do it. However, Wang's Lai does not favor this idea. He has his doubts about it. Because it is Kong's area of expertise, he asserts with self-assurance that he is capable of and can perform this task better than anyone else. He asks the system to verify it, and the system does so, but it also informs him that he has 6 hours left until his energy runs out. This serves as a reminder to him. And that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. Well guys, if you like this video and you want a second part, comment below with the word part 2. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. But most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.